Today's agenda, regular meeting, Thursday, May 7th, 2020. I'd like to say if there's anyone need to fill out a blue card, you can fill it out downstairs and someone will bring it up to us. And also, I think if you need to speak on any item, they will also bring you up to here. And I ask that all cell phones be on vibrate or silent now at this point. I just want to, call pledge of, we're gonna do the Pledge of Allegiance. Kind of got lost. Everybody to the left, please.
Invocation.
Oh, I'm sorry, let me do the invocation. I'm sorry. Dear God, we come to you today with trust and hope in this time of need. We ask you to bring wisdom and strength to the doctors and caregivers. Bring healing to those who are ill. Give comfort to those who have lost loved ones. Give us the strength to make it through this time of social distancing and isolation, as it will not last forever. Amen. Amen. The flag is to your left. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Vice President Abshire.
Here.
Mr. Andrepont.
Here.
Mr. Barris.
Here.
Mr. Barty.
Here.
Mr. Brain.
Here.
Mr. Burley.
Here.
Mr. Hayes.
Here.
Mr. Landry.
Here.
Mr. Lewis.
Here.
Mr. Markentel.
Here.
Mr. Richard.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Stelly.
Here.
Mr. Tremonti.
Here.
And President Kilby.
Here.
Everyone's present.
I'd like to call on Mr. Bean for some comments at this moment, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Excuse me, I'm going to take this off. It's a little easier to hear, I know, if with the mask off. Just to follow up on President Guillory's comments on some housekeeping, if you do speak, make sure the green light is on at the base of the microphone. If it's not, just push the button, and you can decide to leave it on if you wish. And as Tom said, the mic needs to be close to you. We had, you'll recall, a public notice if somebody wanted to comment in advance of the meeting, a public comment, they had an option to either use a telephone number provided or an email address. We received no comments through those methods. If somebody, as Tony mentioned, wants to talk during the meeting on an item on the agenda, we will be told that they are downstairs. They'll fill out a blue slip. We will be notified in advance so that I assume it'll be given to probably Vice President Abshire, and they can be called on and brought up. And they will speak at the podium to my right when they come through. We do have some staff on the other side of the room, and they will use that podium if y'all have a question that they need to answer. A few other comments, just to put the meeting in context. First, it's really good to see all of you, really. It's been a long time. If you don't remember, the last meeting you held was March the 5th, so that's 2 months. And there's really no substitute for being in person. As much as I've personally liked these video conferences, that's not quite the same. So it's good to see you. I also want to make sure anyone watching this meeting understands it has been scheduled because the public's business is important. And although some things can and have been handled during this COVID event, without having police jury meetings, this can't go on indefinitely. It's important to have to meet. It's equally important, though, for everyone to know that preparations for this meeting have been extensive. First, just the space. There's 15 of you plus staff, and of course, in the other room, there wasn't the ability to do that. So this Emergency Operations Center you are meeting in now is much bigger and allows us to follow all of the guidelines, including the spacing. And we've also taken everybody's temperature, as you know, coming into the building. And again, I mentioned the comments and the procedure for that. And we also, in addition to the social distancing and prep for the cleaning of the room and everything else, there's been a lot of work just to figure out how to do the agenda and everything. And I appreciate all the staff who've helped on that. Public services that the police jury provide have been continuous throughout this whole period, even though buildings have been closed to the public. I'm very proud of our staff. The quality of their work and their dedication has been just top shelf throughout this whole thing. Lastly, I want all the jurors to know that President Guillory has done a very good job representing all of you in numerous discussions, public briefings, working with other elected officials, approval of documents, and other tasks. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, and Tony has been there. I appreciate Tony's demeanor during this time. He takes the COVID threat seriously, but he conveys a calmness that is needed during these tense times. And it's been a pleasure working alongside him. And I know we're still in the event, but we haven't had a chance to talk in person on that. I appreciate the patience of all of the jurors during this time, and we as a staff are here ready to move forward, beginning with this meeting. So thank you for the time, Mr. President. I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Beam. Mr. Beam, you wasn't happy just seeing me? He said you was happy seeing everybody else.
I will not comment. No.
Item 4, take appropriate action on applications for liquor and beer permit. Mr. Beam.
So moved.
Usually Mr. Crane does this, but he'd have to walk a mile. So I'm going to say there are 3 applications for liquor and beer permits, and staff recommends that all 3 be approved.
Second. I have a motion by Mr. Landry and a second by Mr. Stelly. I'm going to ask all jurors too, because Mr. Brian Abshaw will not be able to hear you. If you can raise your hand so he can kind of look around at you. Thank you.
Do we need a roll call?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any objection? That motion has carried. Item 5, consideration of approving the minutes of the regular meeting of the police jury dated February 20th, 2020. I have a motion by Mr. Brain and a second by Mr. Barris. Is there any discussion? Any objection? That motion has carried. Item 6,
Move on 6.
consideration of approving payments of all current invoices and advise regular monthly budget to actual comparisons. I have a motion by Mr. Anderson and a second by Mr. Smith. Okay, is there any discussion? Any objection? That motion has carried. Item 7, consideration of adopting a resolution approving the call of a special tax election by the Community Center and Playground District Number 3 of Ward 7 of Calcasieu Parish for renewal and authorization to levy and collect a 3
Move on
meal
7.
ad valorem tax.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Barris and a second by Mr. Landry. Is there any discussion? Any objection? That motion has carried. Item 8, consideration of adopting a resolution approving insurance, sale, and delivery by the Calcasieu Parish Public Trust Authority of revenue refunding bonds.
Move on 8.
Second. I have a motion by Mr. Barris and a second by Mr. Abshaw. Is there any discussion? Mr. Landry.
Unfortunately, who in the world's the Lake Hotel Group?
I can take that one, Mr. Landry. This was submitted by Mr. J. Delafield, who is the legal counsel for the Public Trust Authority. And this is actually, if you will, more like a refinancing of a loan, but it's for bonds. The Lake Hotel Group, this goes back to 2007, Chris, and they're not doing anything new. It's just basically refinancing. I don't honestly remember which hotel that is.
Jay says it's great.
Yes,
Good deal. And evidently I was
y'all have to approve anything
13
coming.
years ago or however long.
Yeah, this is not a new one. It's simply an old item that's being refinanced.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bean.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Holiday Inn Express on Lake Street. Yeah, and now that you say that, Jay did tell me that. I apologize.
Okay. Any other discussion? Any objection? That motion have carried. Item 9.
Move on
Consideration
9.
of
Second.
adopting an ordinance authority in the purchase of property located at 1000 Baghdad Road, Westlake, through funding received from the FEMA Flood Mitigation Assistance Program. I have a motion by Mr. Burley and a second by Mr. Andropon. Is there any discussion? Any objection? That motion shall carry. Item 10, consideration of adopting an ordinance rescinding ordinance number 7220,
Second.
which ordered demolition of one of the house and one accessory building of the property located at 2333 Duplessis Lane. I have a motion by Mr. Richard and a second by Mr. Smith. Is there any discussion? Any objection? That motion have carried. Item 11, consideration of adopting a resolution approving an active sale agreement for the Red Davis McAllister Road and South Park Drive roundabout project. I have a motion by Mr. Landry and a second by Mr. Hayes, and a question, Mr. Hayes.
No, I was just showing you a second.
Oh, okay. Is there any discussion? Any objection? That motion have carried. Item 12, consideration of
12 and all
approving
bullets.
requests for the following entities for grant funding from the
Second.
gaming funds. Item A, take them one at a time or all together?
One at a time.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, yeah, he made a motion for all.
Okay, all right then. Item A, $28,695. Waterworks District Number 8 of Wards 3 and 8 for matching funds associated with the purchase of a truck. Item B, Economic Development Parish-wide needs, $35,000. Louisiana High School Athletic Association for costs associated with the 2020 State High School Boys and Girls March Madness Basketball Tournament. Item C, Economic Development Parish-wide needs, $8,286. Southwest Louisiana Convention and Visitors Bureau sponsorship cost of the World LNG and Gas Series Summit in Lake Charles in November 2020. And item D, Economic Development Parish-wide need, $100,000. Calcasieu Parish Voluntary Council on Aging, Inc., funding assistance for the 2020 Meals on Wheels program. I have a motion by Mr. Stelly and a second by Mr. Barris. And I got discussion. Mr. Landry.
Thank you, Mr. President. On B, was that money just committed and we, because they canceled the thing?
Yeah, Mr. Landry,
I'm sure there were still expenses.
yeah,
right?
I'll let Dana cover this in a second. He's asking about the $35,000 for the Louisiana High School Athletic Association for the state basketball tournament. The good news is, and I forgot this, a lot of that was held before they had to cancel, but I'd like Dane to go ahead and give the data. But yes, that's to answer your question.
Yes, you are correct. It was already committed, but there is some good news. The only days that were canceled for the fans are the last 2 days of the finals. So the total attendance for both tournaments was still over 25,000 attendees. And when you take into account that those two final days usually is our biggest day, that's a good number. But it was only the last 2 days that they could not bring fans in.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Hayes.
Yes, sir. Did anybody else share in this expense, or was it just the police jury?
Well, this outlay of cash was a part of the overall bid that was submitted. And there were other services such as the sheriff's office. Now, they may have been paid for security, but I don't know. Convention and Visitors Bureau and area hotels. I don't have a dollar amount, but yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Barris.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'm going to direct this to Mr. Grimion, and I know this is a little ways out. The LNG summit, have y'all started kind of looking in the event that this, if this doesn't wind down or if it's getting close to, I hope to God it doesn't, but, just the travel influx if y'all.
Mr. Barris, I think Mr. Beam knows a lot more about this than I do. So.
Yes, Mr. Barris, let me take a shot at that. It's coincidental, but I was actually in a video conference call this morning, which had been scheduled a couple of weeks ago, with the event planners for this. This is a big deal, and it is targeted to bring in a lot of corporate executives from all over the Americas, actually, North America, South America. They expect about 300 people. So it's not a tourist kind of thing, but it is extremely high profile, and we feel very good about that. But I think you're trying to ask about the safety and so forth. They believe they can still have it. Obviously, the COVID is uncertain, but it will not be a big crowd issue that can't be dealt with. A lot of planning, though, and it's still early, but I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, sir. I just, I know, like I said, I hope this doesn't last till Monday, actually. I hope it's over Monday, but in the event that the omnipotence of those above us, I don't know. I yield back.
Thank you.
Mr. Andrew Pump.
Yes, sir. From item D for the Council on Aging, have we gotten any input? I mean, how are our seniors? I realize that, this is standard, but given the circumstances, have we had any feedback from Council on Aging? Are they short of funds of taking care of our seniors?
They're doing very well with that, Mr. Andrew Pont. Tammy and I checked on that recently, but especially for the new drawers, this contribution has been approved by the jury many years, and it is 100% for the Meals on Wheels program of Council on Aging. It's not just to the general fund, and it's for the meals. And because of the COVID, I do know that let me back up, the Sheriff's Office, CCOA contracts with the Sheriff's Office to do all of these deliveries. The police jury pays, this isn't all the meals, but this goes toward the meals. So they are following all the guidelines, and all indications are that they're doing well, and this is extremely important to them, as you know. United Way and others are doing food distribution on their own, but this has been in place years, so I think they've got the process down. Now they're just adding the careful practices of not getting too close, because as y'all know, that population is by far the highest risk for COVID. So they take extra care, and the Sheriff's Office has been tending to that.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Any objection? That motion is carried. Item 13, consideration of adopting resolutions accepting the following subdivisions.
Make a motion, A, B, and C.
Item A, West End Phase IB subdivision, or 1B, IB, located off West Houston River Road. Item B, Monticello Court subdivision, located off of Lake Street. Item C, Cypress Trace Phase 1 subdivision, located off Terrio Road. I have a motion by Mr. Markentile and a second by Mr. Brain. Mr. Markentile.
No, I got my question answered a while ago. I got my question answered a while ago.
Okay, all right then. Mr. Brain.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I just want to thank Tim and his staff, and also Wes, for getting number A and B and working with the developers and getting those subdivisions done. I really appreciate it. I know that it was a time-sensitive thing for them, so I just wanted to thank y'all for your help. I yield back, Mr. President.
Thank you. Mr. Barty, did you have you? No. Okay, I'm sorry. Any other discussion? Any objection? That motion carries. Item 14, consideration of adopting a resolution accepting Calcasieu Parish
Move on
project
14.
number
Second.
2018-11 as substantially complete. I have a motion by Mr. Barty and a second by Mr. Barris.
Big hands, folks.
Is there any discussion? Any objection? That motion carries. Item 15,
Move on 15.
Consideration of adopting a resolution of condolences to be forwarded to the family of the late Michael Tubby Bergeron. I have a motion by Mr. Burley and a second by Mr. Anderson. Mr. Burley.
Yeah, I'd just like to say a few words about Tubby. Hardly any of us knew us by Michael except when we was real little before he got that nickname as Tubby. I've never met a man or a person that had a bigger heart than Tubby did. He always tried to look at the positive of things. He always had a smile on his face, and I don't know anybody that didn't fall in love with Tubby. He was just genuine, just a good person that loved their God, loved his family, and he was a mama's boy, I will say that. But he adored his wife and his 2 children and his granddaughters immensely. So he's going to be missed by the Westlake community, his family. It's a long time, Westlake, and he was a director over Recreation District 1 for a number of years in Westlake. And then just recently, he was appointed to the Water Board north of Westlake. And was actually, this year, he was elected as president of that board. So he's going to be missed tremendously by our community. It was a big hit, so I thank y'all for this. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Any objection? That motion carries. I have a couple of point of personals of Mr. Judd Barris.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think most everybody in here knows Mr. Byron Rockeye works for Mr. Vernon Myers and Associates. The accident, man, if you haven't been following, man, that guy's fighting. That guy has got so much fight in him. The prayers are working. That's the beautiful thing. I pray for his wife and his family, the 2 boys, and then just everybody that knows him, and everybody that knows him with staff. I mean, just what a great guy to work with. A can-do. I mean, smile on his face. I mean, just. We got to help him pull through. So, man, I mean, just lift him up whenever you think about it, and like I said, just keep on pulling for him because he's fighting. I yield back.
Okay, Mr. Barris. Mr. Bean.
Oh, I don't have one.
Oh, I thought you, I'm sorry.
Okay, I have one. I want to thank staff so much, not from the bottom of my heart, but with all my heart, for working throughout this COVID-19. You all have been a great asset to me and everything. And we just want to tell everybody to stay safe, continue being social distancing.
We haven't done number 16.
Oh,
I'm sorry to cut you off.
I'm sorry. I'll come back to that. Item 16, take appropriate action on items related to
Move
the
on 16.
outbreak of the coronavirus, COVID-19 in Calcasieu Parish. I have a motion by Mr. Afshar and a second by Mr. Hayes. Is there any discussion?
Move with adjourn.
No, not quite. Again, I just want to say thank you again to
We
staff.
need to vote on it.
Huh? Oh.
Any
Yeah,
objection?
I forgot. I had a motion by, who was my motion by, Brian?
Oh, Brian, me and Mr.
Okay,
Hayes.
and Mr. Hayes. Any more discussion on it? Any objection? That motion carried. Man, I've been gone a month and a half, I forgot. Hey, I just want to say again, thank you, staff, and I just want to tell everyone, stay safe, continue social distancing, wear your mask, and I'm asking you, Calcasieu Parish, as you wear your mask and gloves, please do not throw them on the ground. Please dispose of them. Thank you again, stay safe.
Move with adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion to adjourn. We are now adjourned.